Welcome back to CHGO Bears After Dark, presented by ComEd. We're always keeping the lights on here for ComEd and CHGO Bears After Dark. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you go up to ComEd.com/clean for all your energy needs. So we're back once again. Alongside me, as always, is my guy Corey Wootton, who I promise we'll be able to see at some point. Yeah, I think he's there. He is.
Yeah,
There's
I
our
don't know what happened. Why it took me off the camera.
It's okay. It's okay. But we can see you. And joining us, for all of you that are tuned into our YouTube channel here, CHGO Sports, can see that Zack Pearson has joined the show from Bear Report, fresh off of 4-day grind at Halas Hall, watching the new look Bears. Appreciate you coming on tonight, Zack. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I love being up there. I love covering training camp. It's fun, especially with a bunch of new players, a new quarterback, but I'm ready for a day off. I think I'm going to go golfing tomorrow, kind of relax a little bit, enjoy myself.
Yeah, you're right up our alley here. Me and Corey are always talking golf on this show. So what are you shooting? What are we talking here, Zack?
Oh, man. I'm probably like low 90s. Trying to break 90. I think I broke it one time. So, yeah, I'm working on that, actually.
So better than Bragg. Yeah.
Probably. I don't know. I've never seen golf, Greg. I've only seen clips on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Don't let the videos that Carm puts out from a year ago fool you. I'll show you my game soon enough. But let's get into the Bears. It's obviously a very exciting time for all of us. You know, this new age, you know, with the era of Caleb Williams coming in. And, you know, I know there's probably some hesitation with fans to get overhyped too soon because we do this merry-go-round of emotion with every quarterback from Jay Cutler to Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, and now here's Caleb. And we're definitely in the honeymoon phase, I think, as fans and media. And there's just certainly a lot of gushing going on. No pads. The first time pads will come on is Friday, but let's just start with Caleb Williams. That's what everybody loves to talk about, and your impressions of what you've seen here so far watching him out there.
Yeah, it's been pretty much what I expected. There's been flashes of really good quarterback play. There's been mistakes he's made, things he can clean up. I think that's to be expected with a rookie, even a number 1 overall pick, you know, that has the hype that Caleb, you know, does. First couple of days of camp have kind of been slow, you know, install type stuff, kind of going through the motions. You know, the big thing that I think everyone likes to see on social media is the results, the 2-minute drill. I think that's kind of the closest you get to that live football at this point of the year. But yeah, I think today, honestly, was one of his best days, if not the best day in terms of the start. I charted him down to start 11 of 11. I think, you know, his first incompletion was in the second 11-on-11 period. It was quick. It was decisive. You know, the 7-on-7, the ball should never hit the ground. It's always advantage offense. And what we saw last year was this offense kind of struggling with that a little bit. Way too many footballs hitting the ground. This year's been pretty clean, especially today. So yeah, I really liked what I saw from him today out there.
Fire away, Corey.
Yeah, no. Did you guys hear a little bit of a lag? Like it seems like it's lagging. Do you guys get that?
You're loud and clear on our end. Yeah, there might be a little bit of a timing when I'm throwing it. You know, when I was saying hi to you earlier, there might be a lag coming from us to you on your end, but you're good. We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit on your end, Braggs. Honestly.
Okay. Well,
you gotta get that fiber, man.
Yeah, we'll make it work. I'll yell at Jenny to get the Wi-Fi. Jenny, get the Wi-Fi.
Man,
I'm kidding.
Stop using your Wi-Fi hotspot. All right, to stream the show. All right, please don't do that anymore.
All right.
All right.
Well, you go ahead and fire away. I'll sit back.
No. So from your perspective, you know, Caleb so far, does he look pretty poised when he's out there in the pocket? Does he look comfortable with the scheme? Do you feel like he's grasped it? I know it's been early so far, but from the looks of things, does he look like he's grasped the scheme and feel comfortable and confident with the weapons he has?
I think so. I think he's spreading the football around. I think going into this camp, we thought the big three of DJ and Keenan and Rome was kind of going to steal the headlines, and rightfully so. But there's been a fourth option with Tyler Scott, who's made a couple plays. So I think that kind of just speaks to him spread the football around. He's hitting all the running backs when needed to, going through his progressions, as much as you can in those 7-on-7, 11-on-11 drills. It is a little tough to judge sometimes in 7-on-7. Like he'll roll out a couple times when no one's open, fire something off balance. But to me, and I think Corey, you'd agree with this, from a defensive perspective, that's probably a sack. If he's scrambling around back there too much in 7-on-7, defense definitely did their job. So no, I think he looks comfortable. I think when Matt Eberflus said that he's leveled up, he's come into training camp, better than what he was. Some people might take it as coach speak. I've seen it out there. I think he's better. I think he's better with the operation stuff, getting everyone set up. We haven't really seen as much problems with the cadence. I was out there OTAs and minicamp, and there was one stretch, I believe it was, I don't know what day it was, but there was probably back-to-back false starts, a timeout, a delay of game on one drive. I think we've seen one false start. So I think that's actually where you've seen the most improvement is getting that cadence down, getting his guys ready, in the huddle when they do huddle up in training camp, and kind of making sure guys know where they're at and spreading their football around.
So, Cole Kmet kind of talked about right away, getting off and running, and that they can't take too long. The exact quote was, "We got to get this thing going quickly. There's not going to be time to meander through this thing." Talking about how quickly they need to gel. And that obviously just as a fan gets me excited because we all want the team to be good right away. They finished the season 7-10, almost fought their way back into a playoff opportunity in the end of last year. And so the expectations for the team, I feel like, are separate than what a normal expectations for a rookie quarterback would be. So in that regard, how nervous are you about the mindset of everyone trying to push this development faster because of the team expectation versus this being the first year of an offensive system and the first year quarterback?
Yeah. There's going to be high expectations. I don't want to ever tell anyone, you can't, think big or, Super Bowl would be a little, for me, like, I don't think they're ready for that just yet. But when looking at Caleb, like, there's going to be rough patches. He's a rookie quarterback. CJ Stroud, for what he did last year, there were games you can go back and look, and he really struggled. I expected the same with Caleb Williams. But I think so far, like I said, I think he's ahead of where he should be. I think they have so many weapons. They have a strong run game to help him out. I think there's a reason why they went out and got DeAndre Swift, why he was pretty much the first player to agree to a contract. So, while there is the expectations with all these weapons and, Cole in there and the three wide receivers, I think Caleb's handling it well. I think the offense progressing is on track for that. I haven't seen anything that make me think, okay, like they can't handle these expectations. And I will say, though, I do think when the pads come on, we'll get a little bit of a better understanding of where they're at because, it's so hard to judge everything without the pads right now. But
right.
Once that happens this week, I think we'll get a little bit of a better understanding.
And I think a big storyline to just keep track of the way the NFL is now, we don't have as much time as we used to, right? When I played in 2010, we had a lot more practice. We had double sessions. We had a longer off season. We just don't see that. So a big thing that we've talked about, Braggs, is like the beginning of every season. You look at like Patrick Mahomes, who's arguably the greatest quarterback on the planet, struggled the first couple of weeks. Josh Allen as well. What you see is that's a consistent theme throughout the league because these quarterbacks, these offenses, even defenses, they don't have as many reps, going through everything, right? Going through being on the same page with receivers, running full speed routes, and having that game type action that they used to have because it used to be 4 preseason games. The first game, you'd have a series of 2. Second game, you'd have, a couple series. Third game was your dress rehearsal. The fourth game was mostly for the guys that are struggling to make the team, kind of on the bubble, and for guys to have film throughout the league. So we just don't see the same type of reps. So I'm hoping in this preseason camp, they really give Caleb all the reps possible, just so he can get on the same page with the receivers, with the offensive line, the timing of things, because I think people underestimate how critical the timing is, especially with the quarterback and the receiver, and the offensive line, right? The protection, getting the ball out quicker, not holding the ball, the release, getting that out there. And, I'm hoping that they can do that and really give him the reps. So that way, once the first game of the season, Tennessee comes up, he's ready to go. He's ready to roll. He feels confident. He feels comfortable. He's had enough reps going forward. And the one thing I want to ask you, Zach, is like a big thing with Justin Fields, right? The release. They said his release was very slow, which we saw at times. From Caleb thus far, you've seen is it like night and day difference as far as the release, the timing of that?
Yeah, at times I would say more often than not. I think they're emphasizing getting the ball out quick too. Like I think Shane Waldron really wants to do that. He talked about getting those running backs involved. We've seen different things like quick throws, screens, short passes. We've seen some, arm angle things, kind of whipping it out there quick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the most part, yes. I did mention 7-on-7. He does scramble a little bit out there, but tip your hat to the defense. Secondary is doing their job, but I think it's noticeable so far from what I've seen.
Yeah,
when you brought up Rags, real quick before you get into that. So scrambling, I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is when you scramble and you put yourself in jeopardy, and that's something that Justin Fields did at times, right? Didn't know where to get down, didn't know when to get out of bounds, where to slide. So I'm hoping that Caleb, you can do that. He's naturally a good athlete. He loves to make plays happen. But at this level, it happens a lot quicker. You got defensive linemen that are running 4.4s, 4.5s, breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's fine that he's going to scramble, but just be smart about that, right? Throw the ball out of bounds if it's not there. Scramble, get your first down, slide. Just don't take the unnecessary hits. That's the one thing I want Caleb to focus on.
Yeah, I think he's doing that too. I think early on in OTAs and minicamp, he might not have been throwing the ball away as much as the Bears wanted him to. I think they told him, it's okay, you can throw it away. We've seen it in training camp. But yeah, I mean, even like looking, like I kind of relate it to, almost like a shortstop or second baseman type with those angles, flipping it out there. The throw he had, I don't know if they put it on the highlights. The throw he had to, I think it was DJ Moore. In one of the practices, it was kind of like that, that little flick, which was, someone in the chat here said, kind of reminds him of Rodgers flinging the ball. I don't want to compare him to Aaron Rodgers. It's just Aaron Rodgers. But it kind of feels like he's got those arm angles. He's got the flick, the release, which, we haven't seen here in a while.
Well, and saw those.
I don't mind. Oh no, go ahead, Brax.
No, I was just going to say, you saw those things on tape at USC. The video you're talking about, the Bears did put out there of him stepping up the pocket and flicking it to DJ Moore. The way he climbs the pocket, it was exactly what you saw at USC. The way he kind of ducks his shoulder, the way he uses his shoulders to manipulate the defender, uses his eyes and his helmet, which way he's looking, forced Tremaine Edmonds to shade right, and that opened up the window over the middle of the field to DJ Moore. Those are things you saw him do in college. When you talk about the flick of the wrist, the shortstop type of throws, again, things that he did at USC. Where he's going to have to get comfortable with is learning what the other thing you would see on tape is while he was climbing the pocket, it's because he was fighting because he wanted to make the biggest play possible because his defense was giving up 50 points where there was open checkdowns that he was passing up. He's still staying in the pocket, but that doesn't mean like Fields passed up checkdowns to go run it. Caleb would pass up checkdowns because he wants to stay in the pocket because he's looking for the bomb. And at this level, Caleb's going to have to learn when to try to keep fighting, to stay in the pocket, to extend the play, and when to fight for another day, take what the defense gives you and check it down. Before we get into a few more questions, you got a little bit more time, Zach, because we had a couple mailbag questions, and I certainly wanted to pivot to the defense as well, as we've been going all Caleb all day here in A block. So stay tuned for that. Steven, I did send you a couple mailbag questions from our Discord channel for Zach. So if you wouldn't mind throwing those in there. But before we get into some of that, want to take a quick break to give a shout out to our guys over at ComEd, our sponsors here for CHGO Bears After Dark, helping us keep the lights on. It's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and the well-being of all of us who share it. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense. So business owners should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. So if you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plans today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come. Once again, ComEd.com/clean. And then also want to give a quick update for all of you that are still interested in heading up to London for our road trip, across the pond. Once upon a time, me and Zach shared a drink at the famous Three Kings pub the last time the Bears were in London. So maybe we'll have to run that whole scene back October 9th through the 15th. Make sure you head over to truefantravel.com. We have that trip coming up, and you have until July 31st to sign up for this trip. Dude, they've already got you set up with a 4-star hotel, really nice hotel. They got you set up if you want your flights. They already have tickets for anybody that signs up. You get a ticket to the game. So you don't all the guesswork and all the thinking is taken out of it. True Fan Travel will take care of you. We're going to have a bunch of different events. We're going to have a boat cruise one day on the river. We're going to have different live events. We're going to have a tailgate party before the game. All of that's included. And there's different packages that you can choose from, deciding on what you want to do in terms of if you already have a flight or if you already have a ticket or whatever. True Fan Travel will take care of you. And we also got a trip to Arizona. So if you go to truefantravel.com, search CHGO Bears, you can see those options available to you. All right, moving along here. Talked all Caleb Williams there for the first 15 minutes, and rightfully so. I can't wait to get there on Friday for the first open practice to fans, and we can all kind of see how this looks. And I think the more fans that are there, the more the energy picks up, and the players, I think, feed off of that. I know Corey, if I wasn't out there in the stands when he was practicing, he may not have had as good a day. But then when I was out there, he'd be running through a brick wall because he knew that the meatball was up there, and is that true, Corey? Did I inspire you to the greatness you achieved with the Bears?
Yeah, it was because there was actually a tough guy, a bricklayer, a hard-nosed working man. And nowadays he went from calloused hands to these very soft hands. I shake his hands. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, I don't even know who he is. Drinking brick juice, was a man of the people. Now he's a media prima donna. I don't know what to expect of it anymore.
You know what? You're not too far off, Corey, and I've been trying to reassess, everything, and I think I need to get back to my roots. So, all right. So, Zach, let's get back into the Bears here. And, obviously we talked a lot about the offense. We could probably talk all day long about the offense. I have so many questions, and I'll try to bring you back on once camp is completely over so we can kind of get a progress report from you. The Bear Report's progress report. There you go. You can take that one and go from your expectations and your perspective now, and then we'll go to the end and see how it's changed or, moved along from there. So moving to the defensive side of the ball, we did have a question here from our guy Gary Ross in the chat about the defensive ends, and he's asking, everyone is talking about Jacob Martin as having a good camp so far and flashing. What have you seen of Martin to actually solidify him as the defensive end or DE3 and not just another Rasheem Green from last year? I believe it was Rasheem Green, but Rasheem Green, because that's the kind of thing, Jacob Martin, they're bringing him up today. Eric Washington's talking about him, but obviously Yannick Ngakoue is still out there. So your assessment of Jacob Martin and the defensive end situation.
Yeah, it's early, but the consistency has kind of been there. I think I've noted him down for quote unquote, like splash plays or, sacks in those 7-on-7, 11-on-11 drills. They obviously really don't stop the play often. So the consistency has been there. Now he is 29. He's kind of been a journeyman in the league. I think he's got 18 sacks in 91 games or something like that. But
is this Terrell Lewis all over again? Am I going to be rioting when he doesn't make the roster for no reason, and then the rest of the league doesn't even pick him up?
I think he'll make the roster. I think, you have Montez, you have DeMarcus Walker behind him. It's probably fighting is Martin and Austin Booker. Dominic Robinson, I think, is a guy that still has some work to do. Here's the thing, though. Robinson and Booker have traits. Coaches like them. Martin's a veteran, though. I mean, you could kind of use that backup in there as the defensive end 3 or pass rusher 3. Did catch the attention of Eric Washington. That's always a good thing. Today, I believe he had a play. I actually got my notebook right here where he beat who was it? Yeah, Darnell Wright. Beat Darnell Wright. Would have got there probably for a sack. Those are kind of hard. And you could see after the play, Wright was kind of frustrated. He's like, man, yeah, this guy beat me. He got to me. So I think just making those splash plays and being consistent, that's his path, to being that third pass rusher and getting meaningful reps. We'll see, though, when the pads come on because, it's a whole different ballgame. I don't know. Actually, Corey, I'd like to ask you this because how I see it is, and I've never played football, I'll fully admit it, I think the defensive line has the advantage in the 7-on-7, 11-on-11, or 11-on-11. Sorry, there's no 7-on-7 defensive line because there's no pads. I think the defensive line maybe has a slight advantage. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not.
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I think the defensive line has the advantage in 11-on-11 without pads. Or am I wrong in thinking that?
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you. It's kind of cutting out. You said the defensive line have an advantage?
Yeah. In 11-on-11 without pads.
I think it's just such a tough thing because I think the defense does because sometimes they mess around in bull rush when you really shouldn't do that when you have no pads. Like it's kind of the unwritten rule of veterans. Like you use your hands when you don't have pads on, and then when you have pads on, obviously you can use power. You could butt them, you can swim. So I kind of don't like, when people say, oh, this person showed out when the pads aren't there, because I agree with you. I think it's completely different when the pads are there because there's so many different elements you could bring to the table. And like you see young guys constantly trying to bull rush offensive linemen. And what I see all the time, especially not only the NFL, but you look at like these rivals, Under Armour, All-American camps that people do all the time. You see these kids bull rushing with no pads on. And I'm like, come on, you don't have anything to protect yourself. But I think in this period, when there's no pads, you want to see guys really working their hands. You want to see the offensive linemen, where the punch is at, where the kick steps are, making sure they're at the right point. And defensive linemen, you want to try to beat them in the spot and really work on your hands. And I think that's, without pads, is what you really want to see is them really getting their craft. So I'm looking forward to seeing once the pads go on, because Eric Washington, what I love about him, he doesn't discriminate, right? It doesn't matter what this person was drafted, what high hopes he had. He's going to play the best person. Like he's coached me in college. He coached me in the NFL. He's going to play the best person out there. If you're not ready, you're not going to play. So that's what I think is great. I look at a guy, I don't know if you guys remember Mario Addison. I brought him up before. He was on the Bears 2011, my second year in the league. Really flashed in training camp. Got to the regular season, wasn't exactly what he was in the preseason. But then he, went to Washington, went to Carolina, Coach Washington and coached him again, and then really blew up and was a guy that had double-digit sacks 4 years in a row. So he was a guy that really developed under him and didn't have a big name at all, undrafted free agent. So that's what I respect about Eric Washington is he's going to play the best guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Martin keeps building that momentum and keeps showing out. I don't think it's going to be another Terrell Lewis case where he shows his case to make the team and he doesn't do it. I guarantee you that if he continues to show it, he'll make the team, and he'll probably be the starter opposite Sweat in the pass rush packages. They'll kick DeMarcus Walker in, and hopefully Jervon Dexter really makes his mark. And I want to ask you one other thing about Jervon Dexter, because a big thing we've talked about is the pad level, is the get off. Have you seen any difference from last year to this year? Because my big thing was I think Eric Washington was really going to get on him and harp that to really get him to get off the ball and work on his pad level.
Yeah, I think he's quicker. I think it's a little noticeable too. He's leaner too. It's crazy. He's He's like just like Foos called him a mountain out there. He's already batted down 2 passes, in practice. But yeah, I think he's faster on the get up or get off for what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's good to hear because, I think he's going to be an integral part of this defensive line rotation. So I'm looking forward to him really getting better in that aspect because he made so much progress. He made so much impact out there, playing high and not really getting off the football last year.
Yeah, he's been all the talk so far of camp. It feels like we had him on a few weeks ago, and you could hear the confidence from him. And then hearing about his diet plan and his workout routine that he's kind of put himself through this summer. Hearing his comments today about how, hey, if I see Montez Sweat doing something, I'm going to do something because he's doing what I want to do in this league. That's the right mindset to have, and I think he understands just how big of an impact he can make, on this defense and just how important his role is and the opportunity that he has in front of him if he were to succeed, just how much that will help his future earnings and his staying power in this league. So certainly excited for him. There's so many different places I want to take it, but just sticking with the defense, staying with the defensive line, Austin Booker, Eric Washington also had some comments about his hand placement and his technique. It's early. Like you said, we haven't really gotten into the thick of this yet, but your impressions of what Austin Booker can be, because ultimately what I'm trying to figure out from you, Zach, is, whether you think, guys are going to make the roster, as you said, you think, Martin has a good chance of making the roster. That's great. They need depth at this position, but how does Austin Booker look? Is this defensive end unit enough to not bring in anybody like they did at this point last year?
I think that's going to depend on DeMarcus Walker, honestly. I think he's the guy. We talk about Gervon Dexter, him too, rightfully so. But I think DeMarcus has to be the guy that elevates his game. I don't think you need 10 sacks from DeMarcus. I think obviously that'd be great. We'll take it. He needs to be a guy, that 5 to 8, 5 to 9 type range in terms of sacks. He told us, he was 75% for most of the season last year. And he kind of revamped his offseason plan as well. Taking more time to rest, knowing your body. We kind of hear that's becoming a common thing with a lot of guys on this Bears roster. It's taking care of your body, relaxing, resting in the offseason. So it depends on him. But as far as Booker goes, I like his traits too. I think we all kind of see the athleticism that kind of reminds us of Max Crosby. I actually talked to him today after practice, and I asked him about that, and he welcomed it. He's like, yeah, I like it. I feel like I can be, athletic like him at times. And you heard Eric Washington say about the hand usage, the countering, she's storming outside. Sorry.
Whoa.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
Take cover, dude. That's
and I was like right outside. It's crazy. I like what Austin Booker can bring. Now, do I think he's going to go out there and be a rookie that has a dominant year like we saw what Mark Anderson was like 2006? I don't know just yet. I think it probably needs another year or two to develop. Still very raw. Still has to work on some pass rush things. He knows that too. He told me that as well. So I do like his prospects ahead in the next couple of years. But for me to answer the question, I do think it depends on DeMarcus Walker breaking out, and like Corey said, I mean, we've seen him kick inside already on some situations. Right. So I'm very intrigued by that.
Well, and that's interesting because I don't think they're going to do this that much, but we've also seen Gervon Dexter take a few snaps on the outside. DeMarcus Walker's been kicked inside. It's good to have versatility like that, but I don't know if they have enough depth, and I don't really know. If Yannick Ngakoue is not, so I know there's some fans are like, I don't want anything to do with him. He didn't live up to expectations. He's still a solid depth piece, and so I don't think there's too much harm in it. If we're getting to this point, nobody else in the league's picked him up. The Dolphins just signed Agba, so they're not going to take Yannick Ngakoue. So you get him in on another 1-year deal that's less money than last year's money. I don't really see the harm in that, but I do like that we're starting to add other options there that we didn't hear from last year. We did have another question from our mailbag before we cut you loose here, and it's talking about the weapons. We're moving back to the offense, and from Seth Crane, he's asking, Tyler Scott has been popping up on big plays. of the day by most people. What have you seen that's still limiting him from solidifying that wide receiver 4 role?
Yeah, I think right now he's comfortable. They're comfortable with him at wide receiver 4. I think DeAndre Carter is going to make this team for special teams reasons as well. I think when you get on the field, though, I think Scott is the leader to be wide receiver 4. It's kind of funny because I actually talked to him yesterday. I talked to Scott yesterday and Booker today, so it's perfect timing with these questions. He was kind of the same thing. He identified. He said he talked to the coaches, identified what he needs to work on, understanding his role. He knows he doesn't have to be a superstar. He knows there's 3 guys ahead of him that are going to get the ball more. But he kind of compared it to like those LeBron teams where they had a bunch of players that were good at their role and they understood their role. That's kind of the mindset he's taking. He had to play today.
You need a Mario Chalmers.
Yeah. He brought up Tristan Thompson, J.R. Smith. Those were kind of interesting ones. But yeah, no, I like what I've seen from him so far. And he actually got the chance with Rome gone, Saturday due to personal reasons. And then Sunday was kind of working back in. It was Scott primarily as wide receiver 3. So I think that really helped him. And I think just like I said, knowing his role is really, he's got a lot of confidence. He knows what he needs to do to make, be wide receiver 4. And I think he's right there.
And Keenan wasn't there today, right? For vet day off. So that gives, Tyler Scott's going to find his way into more reps through some of these ways. Like you said, he makes a catch today. He doesn't stay on his feet, which I know that will frustrate fans at times. Him and Velus Jones seem to have had that problem here the last couple of years. For Scott, mainly it's about just holding on to the football.
Yep.
But in terms of his opportunity last year at camp, there was nobody that could create separation better than Tyler Scott. Like, I know DJ Moore is our best wide receiver. I'm not trying to say otherwise, and I know he can get good separation, but Tyler Scott can open it up. Now, if he can just learn to hold on to the football, and like you said, his role isn't as, big, maybe even as it was last year, he may have an opportunity to make bigger splash plays this year without as many eyes on him, with, the attention being drawn to so many different weapons, around the team. Corey, do you have anything else here for Zach before we let him, go hide from this storm in his basement?
I was going to ask him. So far in training camp, so what we saw Montez Sweat last year, he really preferred that left side, and Walker likes the left side as well. So in training camp thus far, has Montez Sweat been primarily on the left side? Has he been alternating? Like, how's that been shaken out?
Primarily left side. I've noted, I think a couple times they've switched. It hasn't been much. It's been, I don't want to put a number on it. 90% left side. I was actually talking to me and Patrick Finley were talking about that today, about where he was at in his career, how many times he's played on each side. But so far it's been primarily left side.
And then my final question. Sorry. Go ahead, Corey. I'm sorry.
No. I was going to say, from a standpoint, right? Like you said, Walker getting anywhere from 5 to 9 sacks. I think he feels comfortable on the left side. He's a natural left end, right? And I think Montez Sweat. So that's kind of the problem. You kind of need somebody to really make their hay on the right side, because obviously that's the best pass blocker. That's the quarterback's blind side. So it'll be interesting to see if Austin Booker really step up to be that rusher, because I think Walker really makes his hand side, right? In those pass rush situations. That's what he was known for in Tennessee. So I'm really hoping he can make his mark inside, and then somebody really step up on the edge and be like, who knows, Austin Booker, could he be that Mark Anderson, like you talked about earlier? Can he be that guy that really comes in there, situational pass rusher, works on his run stopping abilities throughout the season and next offseason? But we really need somebody to be an impact player opposite Sweat.
Yeah. So my final question to you, because this is one I definitely wanted to fit in with you, since you're there and you've seen this, and we are still early in camp, only 4 days of practice. I'll continue to preface these questions by that. But the center position, I think, is the one spot that is like this question mark. And so what have you seen between Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton, and where we're at with that center competition to this point?
So they've been alternating days. the first day was Brian Bates, then Coleman Shelton. So today was Coleman Shelton's day as a starter. I haven't seen anything yet that's been like, okay, this guy's definitely starting center. This guy is going to be the backup. If I had to lean one way, I think it'd be Ryan Bates right now. I think it's his job to lose. I think the biggest thing with all this is, we heard the quote from Eberflus at OTAs and minicamp kind of leaving the door open for a switch with Nate Davis. That has not been, Nate Davis has been there every day. He's looked fine. I haven't noticed any negatives with him. So I think that kind of plays in the equation as well. But yeah, I would lean Ryan Bates right now. I think he's going to be the center, barring some changes here. But I kind of want to see him in game action. And it doesn't really hurt to have reps with both for Caleb Williams. Getting comfortable with both is important because, odds are there's going to be an injury in the offensive line somewhere. So you kind of never really have that full, 5 every single week. So you might need Coleman Shelton to come in at center or Ryan Bates to kick out at guard.
Well, our guy Finley here in the chat, he's already solidified it. He's saying there isn't a center question mark or competition. It's Bates. So hey, well, I guess somebody needs to inform Matt Eberflus because they're rotating days at this point. I would like to see them solidify that decision here, maybe a few days after the Hall of Fame game. I'm not trying to be too picky, but at some point you got to figure out who your starting 5 are and let them get cohesion together. But I'm fine with the competition for now, but I don't want this to fester all the way through camp. If I had to have my preference, I want somebody to kind of really step up and take that spot. So, Zach, I appreciate you coming up here in the spot and giving us your perspective from Halas Hall here these first 4 days. Open practices start Friday. Pads come on Friday. You're going to be there on Thursday with your coverage. Why don't you let our viewers know kind of what you're doing at Bear Report and what people should be keeping an eye out for your coverage?
Yeah, daily notebooks every single day, going offense, defense, special teams, handshakes the players are doing, trying to cover as much as I can. I know the audience likes all that fun stuff as well. You can follow me on Twitter as, at Zack, ZACK _ Pearson. If you're out at Halas Hall, any fans, say hi. I'll be more than happy to spend some time, talk to people, and enjoy it. I feel really good about the quarterback situation. So that's my best advice to Bears fans. Enjoy it.
Well, it's exciting, and we're going to talk some quotes here after we cut you loose from Tom Thayer and Jeff Joniak that definitely got my ears up as well. It seems like everyone has glowing reports from the quarterback. Your reports are always some of the top-notch coverage we have as Bears fans, so we appreciate your insights and your time here tonight on Bears After Dark. We'll bring you back on maybe in a few weeks and see how your perspective has changed if you have a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you guys want. Thanks so much. Always good talking to you, Greg and Corey. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Zach, one more thing before you get out there.
Yeah.
In your notepad, can you really keep track of me? Because this is what I'm so concerned about, because we need Gervon Dexter to really be able to break out. I want you to look at his get off.
Okay.
The snaps when you can, right? And look at his pad level. I want to see that.
Will.
I don't want to see him be the last guy, and I want to see his pad level low. So if you could keep a note of that for me, former defensive lineman, I like the other positions as well, but Gervon Dexter's really going to be the big guy that we expect to step up.
I got you. I'm going to note that down.
And then in the notebook too, I also want you to monitor who has the better hair game going between Nick Mariano, Adam Hogue, and Mark Carman. Every day, take a tally of who's got the best hair day going between the three of them. They're in a tight competition. You were always kind of a front runner in this too, Zach.
Oh no, you're too kind. All three of them have good hair. So they're all three great guys. So I enjoy them all too.
I don't need the Switzerland take. All right, you got to pick one. Each day.
If I would have picked so far, it'd probably be Nick, just because I've seen him though more than
Nick's very good looking. I get it. Carm is a hideous beast. He's in New York right now. He's in New York right now trying to be a ball boy for the U.S. Open. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But Zach, we'll cut you loose. Be safe with the storm. We'll see you here. I'll see you on Friday, and we look forward to your coverage coming up on Thursday. Enjoy your day off tomorrow.
Take it easy, guys.
All right. Take it easy, Zach.
That is Zack Pearson from Bear Report. So make sure you following along with their coverage all preseason and all season long. We appreciate Zach coming on. We'll see if he can jump on here later here in the preseason to kind of see, the before and after of kind of how things have changed, once camp is over. So let's get right into it, Corey. There's a lot of different quotes out there and kind of reset this thing, get your perspective on what you've seen and heard here these first 4 days. I know that you've got a busy schedule with everything you're doing on your end with family and work and everything in between, but anything that's caught your eye so far? We are very early here in camp, but has there anything so far that's kind of crossed the waiver wire that's caught your eye?
I think, obviously the center competition, that's a big deal for the Bears, and the inconsistencies of even getting the snap off last year, the past couple years, actually. So I'm really looking forward to that. It seems like Bates has been the front runner. Zack has mentioned that in the practices. He's looked great. And I agree with you. I think they need to call it early so that way him and Caleb can get on the same page, right? And get the reps, because the center is arguably the most important position on the offensive line. Obviously, the left tackle, right? It's one of the focal pieces. But I think the center, the quarterback of the offense, he's getting all the reads. He's getting all the checks. He knows everything that's going on. So they need to name a guy that they feel confident about it. And if Bates continues to perform well, and especially, like you said, in that Hall of Fame game, if he does play, name him the starter going forward, unless the play indicates otherwise, and move forward from there. So really looking forward to them ironing out the center position, because I think that's been one of the weak spots of a revamped offensive line. And I'm looking forward to seeing Nate Davis this year. He went through a lot last year. Unfortunately, his mother passed away. I think people kind of wrote him off, saying, man, but it's really hard losing a family member, especially your mother at that. So I think he was going through a lot. Head and heart probably wasn't in the game, to be honest. Like, he was going through a lot. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do and bounce back, because I think he's a huge part of this offense, and him and Tevin Jenkins there at the guard positions. And if he could be what he was in Tennessee, it would be awesome for this Bears offense, and especially, Darnell Wright, and company, to be able to play alongside him and be the force he was in Tennessee.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you brought up Justin earlier and talking about the release, and I see fans go back and forth in arguments about Justin, and you'll see some people say, like, or if the guys on the show bring it up, during the post-practice shows we've been doing, like, why are you still talking about that quarterback? He's not here. He's in Pittsburgh. Focus on the quarterback that's here. You'll see that same argument going on Twitter, and it's an unavoidable conversation. I totally understand where fans are coming from. They want to move on. The civil war between Fields fans and Caleb fans is over, and the decision has been made. But at the same time, when you're trying to compare and contrast how much better the offense has gotten from last year to this year, when you're trying to understand if the Bears made the right decision to move on from Justin Fields, draft a quarterback at 1 at the future of your franchise, these are unavoidable conversations. And I set that up by saying, when you bring up the center position and how important this is, I'm not excusing Justin Fields for his flaws. He had flaws he couldn't overcome, which ultimately led to him being moved on here in Chicago. But his presence in the pocket, he never quite got to a high confidence level. And there's a part of that was because of his own flaws. And there was another part of that through his development with the team. And the center position never did him any favors, whether it was Sam Mustipher or Lucas Patrick the last few years. And so while if his pocket presence was something he needed to work on, he was never going to be able to improve on it with the offensive lines that they were putting together. So it is incumbent on the Bears to make sure, and they've done a great job so far putting all the weapons they possibly can around them, but the offensive line still has to show that Ryan Poles made the right bet by not putting a lot of huge money into that. They drafted a first round right tackle with Darnell Wright, so that's investing in it. But outside of that, they've got a lot of guys that aren't high money type people for left tackle or center. They went after plug and play type players. So to me, that's going to be the biggest key in Caleb Williams being comfortable climbing the pocket, extending plays. And so that's going to be the biggest thing. And you saw the highlights, of Caleb that we brought up earlier that the Bears have put out on Twitter. And the other thing that stood out to me, Corey, was today, our guys over, at ESPN 1000, Tom Thayer and Jeff Joniak, they put out a little clip where they talked about what they've seen so far, and it really stood out to me. I have a ton of respect for Tom Thayer and Jeff Joniak. They're two of the absolute best in the business. And they went on to say, talking about Caleb Williams, it's exciting to watch he and Shane Waldron start to formulate a football relationship. You see the results every day in practice, and I think it's going to be more exciting as the season winds on. That was Tom Thayer. And then Jeff Joniak adds, and this really stood out to me, you've got to witness it, the pocket presence. Tommy, he's got it. The spatial awareness, the climb in the pocket, eyes downfield, always looking for receivers. His head is like a pivot, just looking around, scanning, patiently finding his time. That to me is something you can't teach. And Tom Thayer finishes it with two things you have to play to play quarterback in the NFL is arm talent and eye talent, and he's got them both. That when I heard that, the spatial awareness, eyes downfield, those are the things that stand out to me. Those are two guys that aren't. We've got different guys that call play-by-play can be super homers. Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer tell it like it is. They've been two of the best in the business for a reason. And when they say things like that, that stands out to me, Corey.
Yep. I'm wearing a Magic jersey, by the way, the old school Shaq Diesel back in the Magic days. Somebody asked me in the chat. But no, it's refreshing to hear that because I think everybody's been really excited about the quarterback position. Obviously, right? Justin Fields, I was a big fan of him. A lot of other people were, but just didn't produce the way he needs to, right? There's a lot of factors that came into that, right? I think, number one, that Cleveland Browns game, I think to start out your career that way and get sacked 9 times, what that could do for your confidence, right? And really hurt your confidence, rather. And then just not having, a great offensive line, not having all the pieces there, it was a tough situation. But I think the one great thing now about Caleb, they have a revamped offensive line. They have all the weapons. You look at the wide receiver trio, best on paper in the league, tight end combo, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, right? And then you got the 3-headed monster in the running back room. So they have all the pieces to the puzzle. The big question mark for me, right, is how is this offensive line going to play together? Because I think the offensive line is going to be key to Caleb's success, right? I think the wide receivers, all the other positions are going to do what they do, right? I think they're talented enough. But the thing is, right, how is the protection going to hold up? How is Caleb going to be able to manage that, right, if the protection breaks down, things of that nature? Because everything at this level happens a lot faster, right? So he has great pocket presence, right? He's able to see down the field. But the thing is, the key is going to be how Shane Waldron, have that 2 tight end sets to buy the offensive line a little bit of time, buy Caleb more time. Because I think that first game against the Titans, people may say, oh, it's just one game. No, it's huge for how he starts out confidence. Because in this league, mental aspect of things, especially as a young quarterback, you want to start out the first game and feel confident, feel great about your performance. You don't have to light it up. But the thing is, you have to be cognizant of what you're doing out there. You really have to, limit the turnovers, make some plays down the field, and feel great about your performance. And if he can do that, I really believe he can have an excellent year. And I think it comes down to that first game. It's not the end all be all, but once you start getting that confidence, all of a sudden going week 2 into Houston against arguably one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league in CJ Stroud, they have that revamped defense. They're going to be rocking. I think it's going to be huge for his confidence going into week 2, as opposed if he has a bad week 1 game, he gets sacked, he has some turnovers here and there. So Shane Waldron, this is your audition right here. We saw what you did for Geno Smith's career. We saw what you did with Russell Wilson his last year in there. Let's do the same with Caleb. We got a rising star in this league, right? One of the best quarterback prospects to come out. So now let's get this game plan for him, have him come out of that first game feeling confident, feeling ready to go for week 2.
Yeah, I think it's well said, Corey. And like I said, it's exciting to see. I'm excited to see it for myself. The reporting is encouraging. I understand fans that are like, man, we've done this before. I won't be fooled again. I believe it when I see it. I totally get it. I see fans in the chat. As soon as I bring up Fields, it's like this lightning rod. Quit giving him excuses, blah, blah, blah. I get it. We don't need to overstate it with Justin. He had his flaws. There were things he couldn't operate the way you need to at the NFL level, to be a starting quarterback consistently. But I'm not going to kick the guy while he's down. He's the backup in Pittsburgh for a reason. And now you have Caleb here, who has an opportunity to be the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. But that hasn't happened yet. And I'm just trying to shine a light on how the Bears need to make sure this development goes right. And they understand that. Ryan Poles understands that. And they put them in a good position here to make sure that that happens. But as you mentioned, offensive line trust with your quarterback is key, and trust with your offensive coordinator is key.
Yep.
Jay Cutler could sling it, but there was a time where he didn't trust Mike Martz. The Mike Martz thing, I think, is the best comparison. There was a time where Jay and Mike Martz didn't trust each other to the point where Jay Cutler's cussing him out live on national television. But by the end of it, they developed a trust. They developed a rhythm and a groove where Jay started to play some of his best football as a quarterback under Mike Martz. So that stuff takes time. And that's where you see Cole Kmet's quotes. You see the high expectations that the whole team is putting on themselves. That's great. That's exciting. Caleb has high expectations for himself in this league. But at the end of the day, there is going to be, a period of growth that has to take place. And you're only going to be able to do that when the bullets are flying. A week from Thursday is their first Hall of Fame game, Corey. Yep. I want these guys. I'm not over asking for reps, but I want this first team offense to get as many reps as possible, because the other issue I always have every year, whether it's Matt Nagy or Matt Eberflus, is dialing back preseason reps. When I watch Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady and some of the best quarterbacks in this league get quality reps in preseason and we're sitting our guys, I get offended by that. Don't tell me that that's the right way of doing it when the best quarterbacks in the league are getting more reps than you. Just like Gervon Dexter said about Montez Sweat, I'm going to do what he's doing because he's at the level I want to be at. So whatever Patrick Mahomes' reps are in the preseason, you better be topping that if you're the Bears this year. So I'm not over asking, but I am saying let's not soft foot this into the season. Get him the reps that he needs now, so when the bullets are flying week one, he's as ready as he possibly can be.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's the common denominator to even the stars in this league that, like I said earlier, struggle the first couple weeks because they just don't have those reps. And there are very few guys, even the best, that can go out there and not play much in the preseason and turn it on week one. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. This is a very repetition-laden business where you need reps, and especially as a quarterback, as an offense, the rhythm, the timing, even defensive side of the ball, right? I feel like our best years with Lovie Smith were when we got so many different reps and we played games, and we played in preseason, we were going at it, in practices. We weren't sitting practices out. And I think there is something to be said about that. And I understand they're trying to keep the game safer, they're trying to keep people's legs fresh. But there is something about the more reps you have. Why do you think players didn't get hurt as much back in the day? Why do you think we're seeing more ACLs, more Achilles injuries than we ever have? Because guys' bodies aren't primed. They are still out of shape. And I'm not saying there's a difference between being in game shape and being in shape. And I think the guys just aren't in game shape. That's why we see a lot of these injuries happen, during the preseason and then early on in the season. Usually if you get through majority of the first half of the season, the injuries go down. Just because I think guys are more in shape, their bodies are primed for that. You're seeing nowadays we have more rest than we ever had during OTAs, off-season workouts, and then guys are really focusing on rest. But your body is not primed for that, right? The tendons, the ligaments, right? They need some of that stress, and that's what it is. I mean, basketball players, right? If you look at their injuries, right, and I know sometimes the contact injuries in football you can't do anything about, but the non-contact injuries, you see a lot less of those in basketball. Why is that? Because they play basketball all year round, right? They take a little time off, but they usually are in pretty good game shape throughout the year. Because what do they do? What do you see LeBron and all these guys doing? They're running pickup all year round, right? Guys usually don't do that with football. It's either
Right.
you work out for strength, you do a little bit of agility, you do some conditioning, and maybe 7-on-7. But you're not getting those full reps like those basketball players are all year. So I think there's something to be said about that. So I agree with you. Caleb needs to get all the reps possible. You need to put him in a position where he feels comfortable in every situation with all the checks. He knows every bit of the offensive lineman. He knows, hey, Braxton Jones, he might get beat on the edge a little bit. Darnell Wright, he's a little more susceptible to that inside move. So I know if he's going to bait that guy in, I'm going to step outside that pocket. And that's working together. And I think the more they can be on the same page, I think the better it's going to be for Caleb. But I think the offensive line is the most important part of his success this year. Them and Shane Waldron.
All right. I want to run just a little over because we just always, you know how it is with me and you. We always are talking about the damn quarterback. And sometimes I have to like purposely make sure that I don't bring it up because we are as a city so quarterback obsessed. Sometimes we forget to talk about the other things on this team. And I will be goddamned if I do not bring up the D-line with you because there was a couple things that came out the last few days that I really want to get your perspective on before we get to next week and it's too far gone. And that's Gervon Dexter did his conditioning test. This is Montez Sweat's quote. He did the conditioning test with the damn DNs yesterday. And that was, I'm talking about his body transformation and jumping in with the DNs to be ready, as for check-in day, at Halas Hall. Talk about that because you're somebody that played both DN and slid inside at times. So talk about how hard that is to do for a guy like Gervon Dexter and what that says about him, the player.
I think that just shows that his maturity at such a young age because he realized like, hey, last year I maybe wasn't in the best shape I need to be in. And to be a pro in this league and be the best you can, you have to take care of your body. You have to be in the best shape, body-wise, conditioning-wise. And I think he's doing all the right things. And it's great when you got one of the best defensive ends in the league, singing your praise in Gervon Dexter. So this could be a situation, honestly, and I know Gervon Dexter is a tackle, but I've seen it with Albert Haynesworth, right, when he played for Tennessee. When Jim Washburn was the coach, he coached me for the Lions as well. He's a guy that loved to give people different matchups, right? Albert Haynesworth sometimes would line up a defensive end and bowl the crap out of that tackle into the quarterback. So there's so many different scenarios where you can utilize a guy like Gervon Dexter, especially he's got the quickness and he can push the pocket. You never know what situation he might be in. But I think what I'm looking forward to the most is him inside because I've always said that the guys that have the length, the strength, and the quickness, it is such a hard matchup for guards. So 2013 season, Henry Melton goes down with the ACL. Stephen Paya gets hurt. Nate Collins, he hurts his ACL as well. They slide me to defensive tackle. I actually really loved it because I felt like my length was so hard for guards to deal with. I was quicker than them. My arm length, the way I could push the pocket, the way I could win inside. I honestly felt like if I continued my career, I should have played 3 technique. I think I was a more natural fit at that time in my career, especially being 295, being quicker than most guards, having that length. I feel like that could have elongated my career for real. So I think Gervon Dexter's in a great state. He reminds me the build of a Richard Seymour, right? A guy that's 6'6", long arms, had a dominant career. So I think if Gervon Dexter, right, we know he's in shape. The next thing is the pad level and the get off. Because if he can do that, Braggs, I'm telling you, he can be a double-digit sack guy in this league. Because last year he was making an impact, and I'm looking at him like standing up high as a skyscraper out there, still moving people back. So imagine when he gets off with great pad level and great get off. I'm telling you, inside, you have one guy to beat. The 3 technique, I think, is the best position in football, especially in this Tampa 2 scheme, because based on where the back is, where you want to put the 3 technique. Because usually, depending on the protection, which way they're sliding. And that 3 technique, you always match him up where he has that one-on-one matchup. So what is the quickest route to the quarterback? The 3 technique. So why do you think Tommy Harris, Warren Sapp in his prime, Henry Melton, were really making their hay out there, right? Aaron Donald, guys like that, J.J. Watt, he's a little bit of hybrid. But when he had the one-on-one on third down, where did that come from? The three technique. So if Gervon Dexter can come out and win one-on-ones inside, I'm telling you, like, you don't even need an end opposite him to really be dominant. That three technique inside will do everything you need to do. So that's why I think, obviously, it's great to have a guy opposite Sweat. But if Gervon Dexter is the guy that breaks out this year, and, look at Melton's best years, right? 6 to 7 sacks. But the pressures, the hurries, how quickly the quarterback's got to get the ball out, because they see him coming. They don't want to get hit by the big fella, right? Sometimes around the edge, it's a long looping. You come back, you make effort, and you hit them on the end. But inside, they're going to get that ball out quick. So if Gervon Dexter is ready to go as far as that with his technique, and I look for Coach Washington to really get him going, because I think he has all the talent, right? The scheme really held him back in college, and he really didn't have a coach that is going to get on him like Coach Washington. I really do believe he's going to get the best out of him. I think he's going to get the best out of Martin. I think he's going to get the best out of Booker. And Dominique Robinson, the underdog in there, his back's against the wall. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a critical part of this rotation, because he knows it's time. I guarantee you Coach Washington went in the room and said to him, hey, man, you haven't done anything these past 2 years. You really need to step up and show what you can do. He did that to me when I was in college in 2007. I had 1.5 sacks that year after having an All-American year as a freshman. And you know what? Him and Coach Fitz, what they said to me, I put that on my wall, and it motivated the hell out of me. And the next year I was All-American, All Big Ten, double-digit sacks, was projected as a first-round pick. I'm telling you, he knows how to motivate people. So I think he's going to get the best out of these guys. And obviously, right, it's always good to have bodies in camp. But Coach Washington's going to look at it and say, I have everything I need here, or I don't. And if he doesn't, he's going to bring people in. But I'm hoping that it can really put the pressure on Dominique Robinson, right? It can put the pressure on Austin Booker, right, to maybe be like, hey, he's my situational pass rusher. Everybody has a role, and Coach Washington is one of the best at finding that role for people. He's a Rod Marinelli disciple. He's old school. He's an Army guy, military. So I'm looking forward to seeing him really push people's buttons and getting them going this year.
Corey Wootton dropping some knowledge on all of us Bears fans right there. Really, I mean, this is why I want to dial you up. And you talk about Eric Washington, and like I said, I just want to run a tick over here, because the other aspect of that dynamic is you brought up Austin Booker and Zack Pearson, who was just on here with Bears Report. He put a tweet out that really caught my eye here earlier today, where Eric Washington, who spoke to the media, said, talking about Austin Booker, there's a lot of positives. I saw a lot of things I'm excited about. His hand usage, his ability to counter. I know you haven't been in practice yet, Corey. You hear Eric Washington's comments now 4 days into practice. And I know you watched a lot of tape on Austin Booker, and you understand what his responsibility is with this position. How excited does that have you with what Eric's saying specifically? And what do you see in terms of Austin Booker's hand usage and his ability to counter?
So I think when you look at players come from the college, even the top picks, usually their hand usage isn't as good as obviously an NFL vet, right? There's usually a big difference between guys coming from college and guys that have played in the league for a while. There's very few, NFL ready guys as far as hand usage and counter moves. It's just because in college you're playing against guys that aren't playing on Sundays. You can get away with some stuff. Like I've never been the fastest guy in the world. I was always the quickest guy. My 10 was very good and all that. I was running around guys at times in college, right? In the league, I couldn't do that. So you have to learn how to rush different people. And what really gets me excited is the hand usage and the counter moves, because everyone thinks to be a great pass rusher in this league, you just have to beat somebody off the first move. You got to beat them clean. That rarely happens, even with some of the best in the league. How you win in this league is your counter moves, right? Your second, your third, your fourth moves, your effort. And I think people sleep on that because they think, oh, the great pass rushers, they win every. No, you don't. You win on the effort. And that's what I love to hear, especially from a young guy, in Austin Booker, that he's using the hand usage, the counter moves, because you very rarely win on your first move, second, third, or fourth move, and your effort. So That's how you become a great pass rusher in this league. You look at Kyle Vanden Bosch, right? As far as pass rushing skills, he was okay. But the thing is, his effort was unreal. His counter moves, his second, third, and his effort to the ball. You look at Kyle Vanden Bosch, he had a motor like you wouldn't believe, and a guy that was leading the league in sacks for years. And you look at him and you're like, well, there's Tamba Ali is more talented than him as hand usage. But Kyle Vanden Bosch played with such effort and was such a great pass rusher for a long time because of that. So it's your second, your third moves, never giving up. And people really sleep on that. I mean,
with Khalil Mack, you had the straight arm bull rush. I think that's where he'd start. And then if the guy would get the angle, turn him upfield, then Mack would spin inside. It was a lot of things that I saw. So for you, Corey, what was your go-to? And then your second and third counters off of that?
Yeah. So my go-to, I was a big stab rip guy. So I stabbed the inside rip, and then my counter off it would be a spin. So that was my go-to. You get what I loved about Rob Marinelli, what he taught us is create momentum, counter momentum. You get up to the quarterback's level, and then you counter the offensive lineman's momentum to get back inside. And literally, you'll walk into sacks all the time, especially if the inside guys are doing what they're supposed to. The other end is keeping contained. Literally, that alone, rushing cover works together. A lot of people got a lot of sacks like that. Myself, Israel Donajay, Julius Peppers, just from doing that, right? Getting up to the quarterback level and then coming back. You're never going to win a rush if you go around the quarterback's level. You very rarely are, right? It's usually doesn't happen much. So getting up to that level, countering back, that's half the battle there. So it's a lot about being a pass rusher is just being smart. It really is, because you see sometimes guys, great talented pass rushers that run around the quarterback. And Marinelli used to freeze those clips all the time. He goes, what is this guy doing here? He's 5 yards past the quarterback. How is he ever going to? But guys just continue to do that because they think, hey, 1 out of 20 rushes, I'll win. But think about how many more sacks they could have if they stopped at the quarterback level, spun back, humped back. And even I've seen it so many times where a talented pass rusher really runs the guy up the field and literally doesn't do any kind of move, just puts his foot in the ground, comes back and gets a sack. Because those offensive linemen are scared, right? They're sitting back. I don't want to get beat with speed. And then all of a sudden you use that momentum against them. Just put your foot in the ground and come back inside, and you'll get a sack that way. So half the battle with being a rusher is just being smart in there and working together, especially with the front four, right? Everybody has a rush lane, and just making sure you all fit in that. If one of the parts of the rush lanes break down, you're done.
Yep. I'd imagine that the smart offensive linemen recognize who the stupid defensive linemen are and bait them into doing things that like, hey, go ahead, take this angle because you're not going to do anything with it. And so, like, really, not only is it stupid, I think initially it's a selfish mindset, like you said, because all they're thinking about is that one of the 20 plays they're going to make because they want to make the highlight reel. But then ultimately it's stupid for their long-term success as well. So you'd think at some point you'd get the picture, but I think for some people, they're only looking at what's in front of them. They're not looking at the bigger picture.
So let me tell you a quick story real quick before we get out. 2 seconds. So we played Green Bay at home 2012. Last month of the season in December. I think it was like the second or third week of December. So we played Green Bay, and our whole plan the whole time has always been the left end. I was playing the left end, set the edge to Aaron Rodgers, right? Get up to the quarterback level. Do not let him get outside, right? Marinelli's like, hey, Corey, you will have 2 sacks guaranteed if you do that, right? So I do that first half. I get 2 sacks, right? I'm like, oh, we're rocking. And in the third quarter, I was rushing upfield, and Brian Balaga, who was the offensive lineman at the time.
Yep.
What he was great at, because him and Aaron Rodgers, and I was talking about Caleb Williams and Darnell Wright being on the same page. He always baited people to go inside. I didn't fall for it the whole first half, but I had 2 sacks. I want to get my third, and I'm being greedy. And he baited me inside. I took the move. I was like, I'm going to get back up to it. He kind of pulled a vet move and pulled me from behind. Aaron Rodgers gets outside the pocket. We contained him that whole first half. He struggled. He scrambles outside. All of a sudden, Randall Cobb has a go route. He completed an 80-yard bomb or 70-yard bomb. And I remember before I'm running by the sideline and Rob Marinelli's there, and he's like, "Mother," yelling at me. He took me out after that. Story is always get contained out there, especially against a guy that's a mobile guy, because they will bait you in there. You have to work together, rush and cover. And that's the plan that we had. It worked, executed it. I got greedy. And after that, that was the one play that really got Aaron Rodgers and the offense going. And we ended up losing that game. And I was kicking myself. So I had a great, almost perfect game up until that play. And I remember just Marinelli in the meeting room just playing that multiple times. And I just felt like, because if I would have stayed outside, Lance Briggs came up the middle and I would have gotten sack number 3. But that's the thing. You have to work together, and you can never be greedy. The sacks will come. You just have to let them come, do your job, and good things will happen.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, and I was going to test the chat to explain to say another game. The way Corey just described that, most Bears fans should be able to cite another game where that happened, and Mr. Inglewood nailed it. If you go back on the infamous Randall Cobb play with Aaron Rodgers, Julius Peppers, love him, Hall of Famer coming up here in a week. Yeah. But, everybody gives Chris Conte shit because he lost coverage on the backside, Randall Cobb to the end zone for the touchdown to win the game. But in that play, Julius Peppers goes inside. And if he stays outside, you keep that contained. Who knows if Aaron Rodgers is able to make the play. Instead, Julius goes inside. He dives, gets an arm on Rodgers. Rodgers is able to get out of the pocket, wide open, has the moment to touchdown Randall Cobb. And Chris Conte, I don't know what he did wrong on that play, but all I know is you could correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, but I'm pretty sure Julius Peppers wasn't supposed to go inside on that.
No, because if he stayed outside, I would have got the sack. I beat the guard. They kind of pulled me from behind, so I got pulled this way. But if Peppers would have stayed outside, I would have got the sack on Rodgers. That would have ended the game. I might have got a sack fumble on him because he was rolling out that way and then turned to the side like this. I was on that side. I would have hit the ball out most likely, and we would have been done. But that's the moral of the story. You have to keep contained. Everybody's done it as a defensive end. You get greedy. You want to make plays. Right. And unfortunately, Chris Conte got beat, but that would have never happened because we'd have been breathing down his neck.
Yep. And then, like you said, everybody's going to make a mistake. Hall of Famers, Corey's, owning up to his mistakes he's made on the field. Caleb Williams is going to make mistakes on the field, ladies and gentlemen. And we just, that comes with the territory, and it's about having a short memory. So, when Caleb Williams gets picked off or almost picked off by Jack Sanborn today or yesterday, and then the next play is a deep ball to Tyler Scott, that's the kind of short memory you got to have in this league, because you're going to have a bunch of reps. You're going to make some big plays. You're going to make mistakes. That's what the NFL is all about. My guy, Brad Hassey, with a $4.99 super chat before we cut out of here. We've ran out of time here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm glad we extended this show here because that was a really, really great and insightful segment about the defensive line, Corey. So as always, we appreciate that wisdom you just dropped on us here, and make sure you're hitting the like button. I appreciate everyone in the chat, including some crazy guy that jumped into my Instagram page and yelled at me for banning him from our YouTube chat. And then he said, "I have zero integrity, you clown." And I responded to him, and I was like, "I'm not producing today. Steven is, so I'll accept your apology, whoever you are." I'm pretty sure it was that Bison Tajin. I don't know, but I'm not controlling the chat today. All I know is I appreciate everyone in the chat, especially those of you that stay on your best behavior. So make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button on your way out. Off day tomorrow for CHGO Bears, a well-deserved off day for everybody. Steven's been working hard producing, and obviously Nick, Hogue, and Carm doing their thing with the camp coverage. We'll be back Thursday for camp post-practice show. After the practice is over, after the pressers are over, Nick, Hogue, and Carm, who returns from the U.S. Open. I don't know if you've seen this picture here, Corey. I don't know if you've heard this story, but Mark's in New York trying out to be a ball boy for the U.S. Open, which is normally a job they give to little kids, but Mark is living out his lifelong dream here. Your thoughts?
Hey, I would say it's very fitting for a guy like Carm. He'd want to be a ball boy.
I mean, what did you think of this picture? We have a video too. I mean, if Steven's able to pull it up, but what do you think of the polo he's got on here? I don't know.
Oh man, he looks like he's at like a country club in New York somewhere and the Hamptons or something.
I'm surprised they had a ball boy shirt that would fit him, So, and this is the story. So Nick Wright, who's big time in the media game, he told the U.S. Open, they asked Nick if he would try out to be a ball boy, and Nick, being the great friend that he is to Mark Harmon, he said, I will only do it if you let my guy Mark Harmon do it with me. So here is a video of them trying out. This is exclusive footage from one Mark Harmon. Let's see how he did, and let's see if he's going to make the cut. Nick's here picking it up, rolling it back to Mark.
Oh, no, he dropped it.
No, he biffed it. Oh, he choked. Oh, that's soul crushing.
Wow.
I don't know what he's doing with his hands there. Okay, he's asking for the ball back. Yep. Okay, there's the roll. Man. So your thoughts, Corey? Seems like Mark dropped the ball. That didn't seem like Jordan time to me.
Literally dropped the ball. And this is a guy that plays tennis and knows the rules and knows all this stuff and probably watched the Opens for years. It's very disappointing because I thought he's supposed to be Mr. Tennis. And he looks like a guy that's never played a hand-eye coordination sport in his life. So,
well, best of luck to Carm. Hopefully they look that mistake over and let him make the cut. It would be quite the story for an aging man with big dreams, but we're proud of him for chasing those dreams. So yeah, like I said, hit the like button. We'll see you on Thursday afternoon for the next CHGO Bears installment of training camp coverage. I'll be there on Friday when the pads come on. I'll be there Friday and Saturday. Pads come on, Corey. Friday and Saturday. We'll be back next Tuesday here as we get inch closer to the Hall of Fame game. So we'll have more to talk about as we roll through training camp. Once again, thank you to Corey. Thank you to everybody in the chat. We'll see you on Thursday. Thank you to Stephen Nicholas behind the scenes. And always, my friends, bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.